Günaydın, hoş geldiniz. Welcome and good morning to all ENA partners, associates, advisors, and members. Welcome to everyone who is joining us today in what is undoubtedly a daring initiative by our Institute to bring together, here in Istanbul, senior energy executives and acclaimed energy experts from the two countries, with the blessing, if not discreet support by the two governments. We are assembled here in the hospitable environment of the Swiss hotel, the Bosporus, in order to exchange ideas, make new contacts, new friendships, and above all, discuss cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure, and I'm truly honored to open the proceedings of this rather unique meeting. Many of you may rightly wonder as to why we are involved in such an uncertain, in some ways, endeavor. Indeed, since the very foundation of our institute 20 years ago, we set as a primary goal to contribute through our work and example to the peaceful coexistence and cooperation between all the countries in the region, including Greece and Turkey. Today's colloquium clearly demonstrates our commitment to this goal and to our mission in general. The scope of today's gathering is broad in concept, but very specific in its execution. On the one hand, we want to examine the energy-related areas of work where there is already active cooperation between the two countries, such as electricity and gas and renewables, and on the other, to identify new areas of activity, such as cybersecurity and energy networks, where cooperation could be broadened or even developed along entirely new lines of approach. In short, this forum, which we are launching today, aims to create a platform which will help enhance the development of joint projects and cooperation in promising new and existing fields of work. I should add that in convening this forum, our Institute followed the political and diplomatic rapprochement of last December between the two countries and the signing of the Athens Declaration in December 2023. The energy sector is definitely one of the areas which is included in the positive agenda now promoted by the governments of Greece and Turkey. Although there are huge differences between the energy sectors of the two countries, as you all know, largely due to the unequal sizes of the economies and the infrastructures involved, there are certain similarities when it comes to market organization, energy planning, and climate change mitigation policies. It is true that in the energy mix of Greece and Turkey, as discussed in the background paper, which we released yesterday. This is the background paper which we released yesterday, and you can find this in our website, and we send this to all involved in this conference. There are clear differences in the structure and distribution of the respective fuels in the energy mix, with a revolution clearly shaped by certain distinct demand characteristics. Energy demand is developing along different and diverging paths in the two countries. In Greece, we have demand stagnation due to the adverse economic conditions and poor demographics, while in Turkey, we have the exact opposite, that is continuous growth, mainly driven by strong demographics and higher growth and productivity. In this sense, we have a situation whereby the energy system in Turkey, thanks to continuous investments by both private and public sector, is still expanding in a fast pace, whereas in Greece, emphasis is placed in the transformation of the system and the upgrading of existing infrastructure with limited number of large projects. Of course, we have several small, medium-sized projects in the renewable sectors. We have hundreds of projects. But as you will hear later, stagnation appears to be coming also in the development of the renewables market because of additional and, I would say, a lot more energy installed capacity than is really required. In Greece, for example, we're upgrading the electricity system. We have more interconnections, both domestic and international. New FSRU facilities, CCUS and hydrogen projects are taking the lead. We're now thinking of developing offshore wind farms, etc. But a lot more on these issues you will hear from our distinguished speakers and moderators, whom I sincerely wish to thank for their participation and for their wholeheartedly support of this forum. In conclusion, let me observe that although Turkey and Greece may at first glance appear antagonistic in terms of market development and energy infrastructure, there exist certain areas of interest where both countries can benefit from closer cooperation. Hence, our clear message is for Greek and Turkish energy professionals to work together to tackle common challenges, such as the ones found in our long course towards energy transition, or the ones involved in building a buoyant East-Med energy market. In this context, the joint development of a number of mega projects in renewables and energy efficiency can be pursued in the years ahead. In addition, common actions are necessary in developing a better understanding of regional market dynamics, but also in managing markets in, for example, electricity and gas, in an increasingly complex world. I will say no more, and I will now pass the floor to my friend and colleague of many years and great energy expert, Mr. Gökhan Yardim. Mr. Yardim has for many years been involved in the energy transformation of Turkey. He is one of the pioneers who brought, along with his colleagues, gas to Turkey and has seen through the development. And of course, he's involved in many international and regional fora, and his expertise is always sought when discussing major energy issues in Turkey and in the region. Gökhan, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kostis, for nice words. Ambassadors, general directors, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the first Greek-Turkish Energy Forum. The great progress in the field of technology and communication, economic development, not only at the national level, but also at the international level, creates the need to rapidly find new sources of energy. One of our main objectives is to find ways to improve the quality of life by using clean and environmental-friendly energy sources. Yesterday, IEA released background papers for the present energy situation of the two countries. That's why if you let me, as a person who has been involved in natural gas business since 1983, I would like to talk about the past little. The history of natural gas of BOTAŞ and DEPA, which brought it to their countries, are based on some similarities. Both companies were born from oil companies in their countries. Both countries started their natural gas advantages after the 1980s by signing natural gas and LNG purchase contracts from Soviet Union and Algeria. Both countries wanted to diversify their natural gas resources, and their paths crossed in 2003. At the meeting held in Brussels on July 2000, between the offices of the European Union, Turkey and Greece, a Turkish delegation headed by our Undersecretary of Minister of Energy, Mr. Yurdakul Yiğitgüden, it was decided to initiate studies on the transmission of natural gas produced in the Caspian, Middle East, and Southern Mediterranean to Greece and other European countries via Turkey. In this context, with the memorandum of cooperation that was signed between BOTAŞ and DEPA on January 2001, I was the general manager of BOTAŞ who signed this memorandum at that time. Work was initiated to ensure the interconnection of the gas systems of the two countries and to realize the Southern European Gas Ring project in this direction. As a result of the rapidly progressing work, February 2003, during the European Union Energy Ministers meeting, the intergovernmental agreement between the Republic of Turkey and Hellenic Republic on the realization of the Turkey-Greece interconnector and the supply of natural gas from the Republic of Turkey to Hellenic Republic was signed. This agreement was a very important step in the European Union South Europe Gas Ring project. This project aims to improve the transport and export of natural gas to the Balkan countries and the European region via Turkey and Greece, while at the same time diversifying Greece's natural gas supply sources. Natural gas export started in 2007. Turkey shared 750 million cubic meters of the 6.6 billion cubic meters of gas purchased from Azerbaijan with its neighbor Greece. Since 2013, with the TANAP project, Turkey has supported the delivery of 10 BCM of the 16 BCM of Azerbaijani gas to Greece and from there to Europe markets. Today, Azerbaijani gas reaches Greece, Italy and Bulgaria, TANAP, TAP, and IGB, as we all know. I have been attending the meetings organized by IAEA since 2007. In these meetings, I make formative speeches and participate in some projects aiming at cooperation between Turkey, Greece, and the Balkan countries, especially in the field of natural gas. One of these important projects was the Outlook for a Natural Gas Trading Hub, which we conducted in 2014. In this study, an important issue to be addressed was where the gas hub would be based. Increased supply options and the development of infrastructure were prerequisites for creating a market in the region. At that moment, there were several pipeline connections planned in southeastern Europe, as well as FSRU facilities and underground storage facilities in northern Greece and Turkey. Both Greece and Turkey have expressed interest in establishing a gas hub for the region, as well as Bulgaria. The parallel establishment of two major regional hubs was foreseen in the study. One in Saloniki, linked to the Athens Energy Exchange, and the second one was in Istanbul, EPİAŞ. The second study for prospects for the establishment of gas trading hubs in Southeast Europe in 2019, made by IAEA, in which I did not participate, proposed that all emerging gas trading hubs in Southeast region sign MOU with Austrian Gas Exchange, supporting the development of their hubs to exchange of information, know-how, and best practices. In the study, there are certain essential factors for gas developments. All we know, such as unbundling of vertically integrated gas companies, market liberalization, pricing transition, political determination, and changes of cultures, regulations, and governance practices. I believe that the gas exchanges in both countries have passed these steps and can work to provide common price signal to other gas markets in the region. The fact that the energy exchanges in both countries support this meeting is an indication of this. Greece, as a member of European Union, is committed to carbon zero by 2050. Turkey is also moving towards the carbon zero target in 2053. Both countries are gradually increasing the share of renewable resources in electricity generation in line with green policies. In Turkey, recent days, the share of renewable resources in electricity generation has reached to record levels, with renewable resources providing almost 75% of the electricity generated in a one-week period. While the new renewable projects are being built, we see investors from different countries in each other's countries. I know that some Turkish investors are looking for projects to develop in Greece. Perhaps joint projects will be carried out, including energy saving, hydrogen, and information sharing will be provided. We also have valuable speakers on these issues. We will listen to valuable speakers about what more can be done to improve the energy cooperation between the two countries. What kind of opportunities arise? I believe that joint projects can be done. For example, when I was working in the private sector, I remember the wind and solar projects that we tried to develop with another Greek private company to supply electricity to the nearby Greek islands. Unfortunately, this project did not work out in the conjuncture at that time. Another project we could not realize was the export of natural gas between two private companies. We could not get capacity from the pipeline, but then we learned from the press that BOTAŞ realized to export gas to the Greek private company. The rapprochement that started with the President Erdogan's visit to Athens last December will continue with the visit of Greek Prime Minister Mitsotakis to Turkey next month. One of the goals is to increase the trade volume from $5.5 billion to $10 billion. Cooperation with Greece in the field of energy will not only support the economic growth of both countries, but will also contribute to the regional peace and stability. Because energy is not only an economic issue, but also an instrument of diplomacy and mutual understanding. Dear participants, this new beginning is an indication of how far the relations between Turkey and Greece can go. I am sure that our energy cooperation will set an example for other areas between the two countries and will open the door for further projects. Finally, I would like to thank everyone who contributed to the preparation of this meeting. I wish that the first Turkish-Greek energy meeting before this high visit will be auspicious and will lead the way for other meetings to follow. And I would like to extend my respects to all of you for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kohan, for the very nice words and interesting presentation, and for mentioning the common roots of DEPA and BOTAŞ and the coming of natural gas back in 1983. You are very correct. This is how things happen. Then, of course, we had a diversion of the interests with new forms of energy coming. And also thank you for mentioning the information sharing, which is very important. And this is what, as an institute, we have been trying since we started to do and try and improve on this. It now gives me great pleasure to welcome Ambassador Michael Christidis. He's retired ambassador, but he had a new role as the Secretary General of the Permanent International Secretariat, PERMIS, of the Organization of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation, which is based here in Istanbul. So for 80 years, Michael Christidis was in Istanbul directing this organization. Before that, he had posts as ambassador in various parts of the world, Bulgaria, Argentina, Turkey, including Turkey, for many years. So really, we can find no better person to join us in this meeting today than Michael Christidis. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Kostis. Good idea and good morning to everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I wish to express my congratulations and thanks to the organizers and, of course, to the sponsors and attendees for making this great, daring forum, as Mr. Stambolis said, possible. I also wish to thank them for inviting me to address and participate in this significant event concerning Greek-Turkish cooperation in the sensitive but very important energy sector. Rest assured, I will not bother you with technical views or complex energy proposals. After all, I'm not an expert. Yet I do follow developments closely, as the transition to clean energy sources should involve all conscious citizens, given the dire consequences of climate change. As conventional wisdom goes, ours is the first generation that knows it must address the problem, and the last generation that can do something for it. This is the huge burden of our generation that calls for brave decisions and painful yet necessary disruptions. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me also to express my surprise that today's important event is only the first Greek-Turkish forum on energy. I say this because, having served twice in the Greek embassy in Ankara, for the first time as deputy head of mission, 96-2000, and the second time as the ambassador, 2002-2005, I vividly remember the first efforts to discuss and exchange views on the vast opportunities for cooperation in various areas of the energy sector between our two neighboring countries. It was in the not-so-distant 2003 that I was arguing with the relevant Greek authorities to engage in a preliminary dialogue with their Turkish counterparts to explore the ground for synergies in the energy sector. Greece and Turkey, was my main argument, are both transit countries of energy, positioned between the main sources of energy at that time and the big markets in Europe. Thus, I argued, the interests of Greece correspond more with those of Turkey than, for example, with those of Russia, which was and is an energy-producing state wanting to control not only the production, but also the transport and distribution of energy. It was really a happy coincidence that two visionary men were the ministers of energy in both countries at that time, the late Dimitris Sioufas of Greece and Hilmi Güler of Turkey. I still remember their constructive attitude, their lively discussions, and their first meeting on a Saturday here in Istanbul in May 2004. All this led to the signing in 2007 in Rome of the agreement for the transport of natural gas from the Caspian to Italy via the connected pipelines of Turkey and Greece. They also pioneered the interconnection of the electric grids of the two countries, which permitted the electricity exchange at given periods of time. I think that Mr. Yardim reminded us of these historic moments. Ladies and gentlemen, after these so promising cornerstones that led the basis of Greek-Turkish cooperation in the energy sector during the not-so-distant 2003-2004, you must admit that it is a bit disappointing we are today taking part in only the first energy forum between our two countries. This means, dear participants, you have a heavy burden to catch up with all that time that went by, almost 20 years, and find further ways and means to elevate Greek-Turkish cooperation in the energy sector to higher levels, especially today, when issues like energy security and sustainability, environmental protection, clean energy transition, and responsible resource management are creating a whole new set of challenges and opportunities in the wider sector. Sure enough, the energy scene, and not only, is totally different today than that of the beginning of the 2000s. We live in a fragmented world and in a region that suffers from severe geopolitical tensions, if not outright war, in a multipolar reality where big and medium states are vying for greater chunks of influence and power projection, with severe inequalities among states and societies, with the finite resources of our small planet in fewer hands and thus at greater risk of depletion. In this rather grim picture of today's reality, I am more than ever convinced that greater regional integration and cross-border connectivity are of crucial importance because they can lead to interconnected and thus more efficient energy markets, to regional initiatives that will enhance energy security, stability, and growth, all for the benefit of neighboring countries. In this effort, both government and the private sector stakeholders have a role to play. Thus, I urge you, dear participants, to constructively engage in discussions, share your expertise and insights, explore every possible opportunity for collaboration and partnership, generate concrete ideas, projects, and initiatives that may drive forward the Greek-Turkish cooperation in the energy sector. After all, the time is ripe and the time is right. Only tomorrow, a new round of the continuing constructive and meaningful Greek-Turkish consultations of the so-called positive agenda will take place here in Istanbul, hopefully adopting measures of common interest and benefit. And as Mr. Yardim mentioned, the Greek Prime Minister will be visiting Turkey on May 13, if I'm not mistaken. Personally, I firmly believe that Greece and Turkey share many common goals and interests in the energy sector, such as enhancing energy security, diversifying energy sources, promoting sustainable development, and addressing, of course, climate change. I'm also convinced that the prevailing today atmosphere of dialogue and cooperation between Turkey and Greece undoubtedly corresponds to and reflects the true feelings of friendship that the great majority of the Greek and Turkish people embrace for their respective neighbors. I know that because I had the privilege of serving in hospitable Turkey for almost 13 years, 7 in the Greek embassy in Ankara, and 6 as the Secretary General of the BISEC organization here in Istanbul, the most mature and effective vehicle of regional cooperation in our wider Balkan and Black Sea regions. Ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely hope that the first Greek-Turkish Energy Forum will pave the way through your contributions and commitment to host the second forum in the very near future, perhaps in Greece this time. So good luck to your deliberations, and thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Christidis, for your very informative views, penetrating comments, and very encouraging and positive thoughts. I think we need them, and your background and experience is most valuable. Let me now ask my dear friend, Dr. Halil Yurguguden, to take the floor and make a presentation on Turkey's energy scene. Dr. Yurguguden, he has been Secretary General of the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, and this is where we first met, again, almost 15 years ago. He then went on to become ambassador and former coordinator at OSCE on economic and environmental activities in Vienna, and he has, in his career, held many other important posts. With an engineering background, he could no doubt be a very useful contact and advisor to Vienna, and we sincerely thank him for his support all these years. You have the floor.
Thank you, Kostis, for your nice words. I prepared a PowerPoint presentation, although the remarks of Mr. Yardım and Ambassador Christidis highlighted the past developments together with Kostis' remarks. And it's an honor to be here and to address distinguished representatives of the Greek and Turkish energy sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, I will try to summarize some of the issues relating Turkey. Last year, Turkish economy grew by 4.5%, and the GDP reached 1.1 billion US dollar, and the trade volume of Turkey reached 617 billion US dollars. Not everything is nice in this economic picture. When you see the consumer price index of 65% of last year, we have to face severe inflation, and it's not easy to bring down inflation, but the government is working on it, and I hope this can be done quite soon. Turkish economy has quite a lot of vulnerabilities. First of all, Turkish economy is very dependent of energy. We are importing over 90% of our oil, 99% of our natural gas, coal, also especially hard coal we are importing from abroad. So those industries like cement, iron and steel, electricity generation are quite strongly dependent on energy imports. Similarly, plastics industry, second in Europe in production, it's also dependent on imports of high percentage on imports of petrochemicals. Other sectors like agricultural products, white appliances, motor vehicles, they are dependent on raw materials and semi-finished goods. So Turkey tries on one side an energy transition to reduce carbon emission. On the other side, Turkey tries to avoid these high imports and then replace them somehow. So in this regard, National Energy Plan 22-2035 was developed to achieve Turkey's 2053 net zero emission target. Turkey wants to maximum utilization of renewable energy sources, introduction of nuclear energy into the energy mix, use of natural gas as a transition fuel, exploration and utilization of new hydrocarbon resources to reduce the import dependency, strengthening the energy infrastructure, and investments in hydrogen, critical minerals, storage and digitalization, further development of local equipment production to support the energy sector, and create a competitive energy market and strengthen the role of Turkey in international energy trade. So we see here the primary energy mix of Turkey, coal, oil, and natural gas at quite the same share that we see. The remaining is covered by renewables. So this is the, if we look back, a transition takes place. Whether it's fast enough, we have to discuss. When we look back to the year 1998, some 25 years ago, oil had a share of 43%, and in 22, 28%. Remarkable increase of natural gas from 12 to 27%, also a remarkable increase of renewables, so solar, wind, and geothermal from 1 to 11%. So National Energy Plan foresees that Turkey's primary energy consumption will increase from today's 157 million tons of oil equivalent to 205 million tons of oil equivalent in the year 2035. In this regard, very ambitious plan is to increase the share of renewables from 16, sorry. What? Did I? I'm sorry, I came too fast to increase the share of how I came, sorry. Okay, I did something wrong. So to increase the share of renewables from 16% to 24% until 2035, to introduce nuclear energy with a share of 6%. It's also important that to decrease the share of oil, we see here there is not much decrease because of the transportation sector, and we need to keep natural gas as a transition fuel. So this is the development of installed capacity. Last year, Turkey reached 107 gigawatt installed capacity. In this regard, it's very remarkable. The past development of hydro, it's more stable in the last years. The increase, yearly increases are much lower, but in lila color down here, we see the development of renewables, and the wind, solar, geothermal reached nearly the installed capacity of natural gas. Unfortunately, the natural gas installed capacity is decreasing. So this happened in many countries in Europe. Instead of replacing coal, renewables are replacing natural gas. So this needs to be addressed in the future. So this is we are looking back 5 years, 2018, 2023, to see the changes. And 2003 was a quite strong year for coal. It increased again after the Russian invasion in Ukraine. And so if you look back the previous years, it was much lower. And then 2023, coal reached again in electricity generation 36%. But on the other side, renewables increased from 12% to 20%. Biomass increased from 1% to 3% in the last 5 years. The National Energy Plan for 2035 has very ambitious targets. The decision makers saw that to develop wind is not that fast, easy like developing solar. So they foresee a capacity of 53 gigawatts of solar in 2035, followed by 30 gigawatts of wind. And we see also 7.2 gigawatts of nuclear. This means 6 units at least. So how to promote the generation from renewables? In this regard, Turkey has a quite successful track record. The two tools we applied in the last 12, 13 years, Turkish feed-in tariff system, YEKDEM, supported by local component bonus, and Turkish auctions model, YEKA, was also responsible, like large-scale solar farm in Karapınar, Konya of 1,000 megawatts. So after ending of the first period of YEKDEM feed-in tariff support, the government had some difficulties to formulate a new YEKDEM tariff because it was just during the pandemic time. But last year, a new YEKDEM tariff is formulated and largely appreciated also at the industry. But we got another problem at the time being. This is the access of financing. Financing is very expensive. Nuclear is clearly a part of energy transition in Turkey, like in the majority of European countries. Turkey made 3 times efforts since 1970s to build a nuclear power plant. This last one started in 2010s, and then the groundbreaking ceremony of the first unit in April 2018 was successful, and the commissioning stage of the first unit started in April of this year, a few weeks ago, and we hope that the first unit can be commissioned in early 25, and the following units in 2026, 27, and 28. Two other nuclear sites are under development. One is the Sinop nuclear power plant site at the central Black Sea. The other is Inada nuclear power plant site, again at the Black Sea, close to Bulgarian border. And in this regard, there are ongoing negotiations with Russian Federation, with China, and with South Korea. Turkey is also interested in deployment of small modular reactor projects, and talks are taking place with UK, US, and France. In the afternoon, distinguished chair of the Turkish Energy Efficiency Association will talk about energy efficiency, so I will keep very short here. And Turkey started the energy efficiency measures after the oil shock of the 1970s. First ever regulation has been issued in 1977, and several following this one. And another important milestone was the thermal insulation standards in the year 2000 for the building sector, revised in 2008. Energy efficiency law has been adopted in the year 2007, and the related bylaws in the following years. But I must say the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan, the first one, 2017-2023, had a good impact on the Turkish energy efficiency efforts. We see here the development of the energy intensity. If we take the year 2000 as the base year and give the index of 200, we see here 2022 we came down to 68-69%. And recently, I must say recently, beginning of this year, Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources announced the second action plan towards 2030. And in this regard, Turkey needs to invest $20 billion until 2030, and the cumulative energy savings will reach 37 million tons of primary energy, and we hope to also reduce the energy emissions by 100 million tons, and an additional energy intensity reduction by 15% is targeted. So this is the natural gas infrastructure of Turkey. Last year, Turkey consumed something about 50 billion cubic meters. The year before, it was 54 billion cubic meters. And so the infrastructure for the needs of Turkey is nearly completed, I must say. We have all the trunk lines in place. We have two natural gas storage facilities here in the northwest and in central Turkey, here by Salt Lake. We got two onshore LNG regas facilities here and north of Izmir. We have three FSRU units in operation at the Mediterranean coast, at the western coast, and in the Gulf of Saros. So if the European countries and the European companies are really serious about bringing additional Azerbaijani gas to Europe, and they sign with Caspian producers, binding contracts, so certainly Turkey would be also contribute to expand its network. So Turkey recently discovered the Sakarya ultra-deep offshore gas basin in the Black Sea with the Tuna 1 well, and later with additional wells and appraisal wells, the reserves increased over 700 billion cubic meters. And Turkish Petroleum Corporation was very fast to award APCI contract in October 2021. It was a right time, I must say, because after Russia's invasion in Ukraine, the exploration activity boomed globally, and the mobilization times of the service companies in the oil sector is much longer. So at that time, the companies, APCI contractors, could mobilize their equipment, start to work within few months. So last year in May, the trial production from the Sakarya gas field started. The target is 10 million cubic meter per day in the first phase, and it reached this last month in April 3.7 million cubic meters per day. But in the meantime, Turkish Petroleum also signed the second phase APCI contract last year, and the final target is to produce 40 million cubic meter per day at the end of this decade. I want to touch upon energy transition in transport, if Chairman allows me, when we have time, because to bring down oil consumption is a stubborn thing, because the transportation sector relies heavily on oil. And when we see here, we see a positive development. We have more freight on the rail. We have more passenger on the rail. And in the modal split, Turkey made also some progress, but compared with Germany, it's still a lot to do in this regard. And one of the success stories was the development of high-speed railways. Last year, it reached 2,250 kilometers, and 1,300 kilometers are under construction. It really attracts the passengers to the rail. So immediately the figures are increasing very fast when you offer such a comfortable service. And as I heard from Mr. Yardım, he came yesterday by train and not by plane. So electromobility is high on the agenda. In 2022, Ford Otosan rolled out the first all-electric commercial vehicles from its factories in Turkey. Indigenous Turkish electric car started deliveries in April 2023. And Turkish bus manufacturers, electrobus manufacturers, Karsan, Temsa, Otokar, and Anadolu Isuzu always present in European markets. And Karsan is a leading company in three, bus models in Europe by sales. Sorry, I made again a failure. And Turkey is in the 6th place in electro-vehicle sales last year. The figure nearly exploded in last year to reach 66,000 cars, but the figure is 72,000 if you include the extended range electro vehicles. So the most sold models are the Turkish developed mobility platform TOG and the imported Tesla. The charging stations are growing very fast. Energy regulatory body developed also a mobile app for the need of owners of electro vehicles that they can easily find the charging stations. But it is developing very fast. Every month, several hundred are adding to the figures. So I don't want to go in detail of the market activities of EPH since Mr. Arvas will brief us today. And I just want to finish here discussing with you about what we saw. We got a very good track record in the past, but investments need to be accelerated, and for this purpose, easy access to financing is needed. Energy efficiency, we need to do more investment. Electricity market is developed quite well, but we need to abolish tariffs, and we need to have more transparency. Natural gas infrastructure is well developed. We need to expand the existing underground storage capacities. Natural gas market is still long away from gas-to-gas competition. And transport sector needs a special focus to reduce the use of oil. In conclusion, a lot of is done, but still a long way to go. Thank you for your patience.
Yurda Gül, thank you very much for a panorama of the Turkey energy scene. We could not have a better overview, and of course of the very useful and pointed observations at the end, which come from many years' experience in this field. So in this presentation, we have a very good introduction of what's happening in the country. Now, I'd like to ask the Greek regulator, Professor Dagoumas. Is he on screen? Professor Dagoumas is the president of the Regulatory Authority for Energy. Now it is Energy, Waste and Water in Greece. He's also an associate professor in energy resources and economics at the University of Piraeus. Many years research, University of Cambridge and other very well-known places. And above all, he's a very good researcher and commentator on energy matters. He's now in Amsterdam at the World Energy Congress. So, Professor Dagoumas, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Stabolis. It's my great pleasure to participate in this important initiative, and I'm glad that I can contribute to this discussion. I have a presentation that I have already shared, so please allow me. Is the presentation being used by me?
Yes, we can see this very clearly. You can go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so my presentation has these 4 pillars. One is some facts about the energy system in Greece and the energy policy. And then there are other 3 pillars discussing on energy markets development of networks, and something that we consider that is very important in our role as well as in the state's role to support consumers during the green transition. And finally, the conclusions. So let's start with energy facts in Greece. It's data from the National Energy Agency for 2022. Of course, they're updated for 2023, but for coherence, I used these facts. So practically, for our energy system, it's very clear that we have a very high share of oil, mainly used for transport and heating purposes. And we have very competitive refineries, of course, that export in many countries abroad because of their competitive performance. A very important issue is that we are gradually and very fast phasing out of lignite. Of course, lignite played an important role during the energy crisis, but it's gradually phasing out, and in the next year, very recent next years, it will be eliminated at very low values. We have a very rapid increase of renewables, mainly solar and wind that exist already over the last 10-15 years. And many times we have share more than 80% in our energy mix in the electric production, which is plans to be our steady state situation for the power system. And of course, we have a considerable role of gas, both in the power sector and also in the heating purpose in the retail, in the residential sector. But within the green energy transition of the European Union, the role of gas is quite uncertain.
Mr. Dagoumas,
Yeah.
can you make it full screen presentation?
Yeah, I have it full screen, I think so. Can you see?
You must push the button.
Yeah, I have it full screen.
Okay.
Can you see it now? For me, it's full screen.
Okay. Well, let's leave it at that. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I can't do anything more. Yeah. So that's why our TSOs and DSOs are very active in Greece on exploring renewable gases and hydrogen in the near future. The National Climate and Energy Plan that recently submitted to EU and will be finalized very recently within 2024 clearly sets some targets, ambitious targets, mainly, of course, for energy efficiency, renewables, electro production, renewables in other sectors as we go to deep electrification in Europe, and as well as to renewable fuels in other sectors. Based on these facts, the energy policy of Greece, based on the recent National Climate and Energy Plan, identifies the following main priorities, which is the energy efficiency that has also high domestic value within our country because of the competitive companies in our territories. Green electricity is clear and no regret option as a renewables penetrating system because they are very competitive, but also require flexible assets to support storage, especially pumping hydro and batteries, as well as demand response. There are clear price signals for their penetration too. We're also moving towards electrification of other sectors and mainly transport as well as buildings, where electric vehicles as well as cold ironing in our ports are being already in transition, and this also creates electricity demand and allows more penetration of renewables. And finally, as I mentioned about gas, gas is a transition fuel in our country, and therefore renewable gases, hydrogen and other technologies are within our National Climate Energy Plan. So plenty of projects are there to support this energy transition within our territory. How the regulator supports this energy policy? Of course, we are strongly committed in implementing the National Climate Energy Policy. And and to support the government. And the government implements energy efficiency through numerous funding programs that runs over the last 10 years from the state. Of course, this is enough because the role of state is to open the market, and therefore, and especially because of the energy price awareness over the last years and the evolution of the real estate market, the suppliers now are becoming more gradually ESCOs providing other services, and this creates a marketplace for energy efficiency too. For green electricity, of course, the state provides supports operating or investments state aid schemes. This, of course, helps the penetration of renewables and helps the penetration of storage, who have successful auctions over the last years. But of course, again, the situation is to create a market dynamic so that those assets will go on the market, not through support schemes. Very important in Greece is the electricity network development plans, where we have very ambitious development plans, both at the TSO and the DSO levels, including, of course, smart digitalization. Concerning the electrification of transport and other sectors, chargers, and especially DC, the fast charging chargers, are gradually expanding. And again, there the state is allocating funds for electric vehicle support as well as ports electrification. And finally, for renewable gases and new technologies, there are already placed biomethane, green hydrogen, and CCS projects that are being implemented. The decision makings have been done, and they issue for support from European funds, from IPCI and the Innovation Fund, and they have already been included in those lists. As I mentioned before, we are strongly committed in supporting the national energy policy in Greece, and we do it in the way as you can see in this slide. So for energy efficiency, which is the main which is in the role of the ministry, we support by creating tools for supporting consumers, innovative tools for estimating the electricity consumption at home and their appliances, and to make energy savings at homes. These applications have already been awarded in competitions. And now we're creating an online one-stop shop for building an energy efficient market to support this market uptake of energy efficiency. In green electricity, it's very important that the facilitation of renewables and storage licensing enhanced investment and competition, and this decreased the prices in the auctions that I will show you later on. Of course, we approve very fast and in a comprehensive way the electricity network developments, and if there's delays, we impose fines because it is our role, and we support, of course, the digitalization of network. And finally, it's very important for us to protect consumers through numerous tools that we have created, and you can access it in our website to help to engage consumers in this transition and to support them. Concerning electrification, of course, we approved the network development plans, and we also made an important decision of adapting the network charges based on capacity, mainly and not on energy, and this helps the expansion of the network for new technologies, including chargers. And next week, we'll issue also the charging cost tool, a tool for our final consumers that will be able to find all available chargers and the price that are being offered within our territory, as well as the route towards these chargers. And concerning, of course, renewables, gases, and hydrogen and new technologies, again, we have to adapt to the regulatory updates within Energy Union and to approve the relevant networking plans. So we're committed on this energy policy and to support the development of that. So let's go on the second pillar, which is the energy markets development, to see these three pillars in more detail. So as I mentioned before, very important in the Greek case was the facilitation of renewables and storage licensing. As you can see, we do it in a very transparent way that is mentioned as a benchmark in OECD. And this has helped to facilitation of licensing. So we issued about 100 gigawatts of RES, 45 gigawatts of storage, and 10 gigawatts of hybrid assets. Of course, all of them will not enter on the market because there is no electric space for all of them, but this facilitates competition. And as you can see from the auctions that have already implemented, so for a financial operating aid for renewables, from a starting price of 54, the final price was 35, 37.6. So this is in favor of the final consumers. The same also happened for the financial operating aid for storage. So the auctions that took place also started from 115,000 euros, and the selected projects were below 50,000 euros, so less than 50% of the auction price of the starting price. So this again from the final consumers. What is very important for us is very clear that our market is transparent, it's competitive, and the penetration of renewables and other assets helped on this. And as you can see in our situation, this is a clear picture of.
Thomas, hello, can you hear me? You're not
yeah.
changing the slides. We don't see new
I
slides.
changed it. I changed in.
We cannot see. Yes, but
Uh,
right now we can see. Okay,
Only this one, yeah.
you have to share the presentation. Okay, this is much better. It's much better now. Okay, good.
Yeah, sorry for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see it now? It's full screen on me.
Yes,
Sorry
yes.
for
Now
that.
we can see it better. Okay.
Okay, sorry. So as you can see, for us, it's very clear that we have very clear price signals. The zero prices that we show over the last months in Greece as well as in other areas in Spain, of course, eliminate energy costs and create some uncertainty projects, but this could offset by support by flexible assets included in their portfolios, and they create clear price signals. This is the clear message for storage and demand response. So the market works and provides clear signals for these type of investments. And this can be also seen in the day-ahead market, where you can see from our website, we have the aggregate supply and demand curves for each hour. Every day you can see it. So you can see that there is a competition in each hour. We have a competitive market in the wholesale as well as in the retail market, and clear price signals for the final investors. This competition has led to Greece, which were over the last about 20 years among the first two most expensive prices in the day-ahead market. Now we are very close to market coupling with Southeast Europe countries and Balkans are Central European countries, and we're decoupling from the most expensive Italy. So practically we're now usually in the first 10 countries, ninth we're now in this year. So this practically means that this facilitation of projects creates competition and reduces the cost for the final consumer, which is our main aim as a regulator. Let's go for the development of network and infrastructure. As you probably know, we have a very ambitious plan for the connection of the islands. Practically, Clades have already been completed. It will be completed next year, as well as Crete.
Κύριε Δαγούμα, πάλι στο screen εμφανίζεται πάνω του προγράμματος επικόλληση, διαφάνειες κτλ. Και
Το κάνω,
πρέπει να μεγαλώσετε, να φαίνεται το full screen.
I put it full screen.
Ναι, αλλά σε εμάς δεν το δείχνει.
It's a matter of the sharing. He has to
It's a sharing.
Presentation,
Yes, share.
not his screen.
Share.
Yeah, I know. I am an electrical engineer. I know how to share.
Okay.
No,
it's better.
Can you hear it now?
Anyway, you go ahead. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, it's an issue of the connections of the islands are going very fast, and the next year we'll have the connections from Crete as well as the Cyclades. But it's very important that we monitor them, and if there is delay unjustified, of course we'll impose fines, as we did over the last years in the case of West Route in Peloponnese. So this is the role of regulator to be on top of the operators to do their job. It's very important for the electrification of transport, as I mentioned before, that we show very rapid developments in electric vehicle technology, storage, and fast DC chargers. As you can see on the left side, which shows that there is a competition from China, but also, I saw from the figures before, also from Turkey and from other countries, of course, in Europe. And this, of course, helps the penetration of electric vehicles in our system very fast towards meeting our targets. And of course, we have ambitious interconnection with other countries, including, of course, with second interconnection with Turkey, which is planned to be by the end of the decade. Already we have a secondary connection with Bulgaria and under development with Cyprus and the plans for the connection with Albania, North Macedonia, and other countries. So this creates for the integration of the market. It's very important to integrate our systems, integrate our markets, which is in favor of trade of the final consumers. This is that we strongly believe as we are in favor of competition. Concerning the natural gas system, as you can see, there are plenty of developments in our area and territory. Of course, TAP and IGP are in place after many years. IGNM for North Macedonia is being constructed, and Trans-Balkan has reverse flow, helping sending gas to the north and not coming gas from.
Μπορείτε να δείξετε το slide με το επόμενο με το αέριο, δεν φαίνεται. Είναι στον ηλεκτρισμό ακόμα. Okay.
I said there is a delay.
Okay.
There is probably a delay. Yes, sorry for that. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now this is fine. Thank you.
Okay. So as you can see, this gap, and practically this is a source from ENA. So it's ENA. I use this as a background also for this important initiative. And of course, we have Alexandroupolis terminal and plenty of applications. Potentially, some other assets will come in place. But major developments has happened over the last years. And now the TSOs are discussing of a vertical gas corridor, which will be mainly for hydrogen in the future, which is about to start non-binding phase in the next months. So all those developments show that there is a lot of developments in our region, although the infrastructure and as well as in other countries, especially in Germany, and Greece proves to be among the EU states with high LNG importing capacity with this Alexandroupolis infrastructure. But as you can see on the right side, Europe sends some signals of going away from gas. And as you can see, the Repower EU contradicts Fit for 55 assumptions. And practically this works against LNG trade and mainly supports the existing pipeline trade. So this infrastructure are important for the energy security in the region, but for the long term, there are some questions on their potential use. On the other hand, as we can see, and because of the Ukraine war and the EU bans that have been imposed, this has increased the trading role of Turkey for pipeline gas, and Russia has enhanced its trading with China, as you can see, and in Turkey, eliminating trades with pipeline gas, with Europe for pipeline gas. But this affects also the trades in our territory. And as you can see, the first months of 2024, we have elimination of exports from our LNG assets, which was at high levels in previous years. And this creates some discussions of increasing more the competition in the area. Finally, on the consumer place and how to support consumers, I have 3-4 more slides on that. So practically, it's very important for us that our role, as well as the state's role, is to support consumers. There are plenty of companies that make lobbying in favor of projects who have to make lobbying in favor of consumers. This is our role. So that's why We have, of course, we monitor the market, we impose fines, but we engage consumers through a number of innovative tools. You can see it in our website also. Some of them are also in English because many regulators ask for our help. Some are about complaints, energy ombudsman, tools for energy efficiency, tools for comparing costs. All those tools have a conceptual idea that in the same way that like Uber, Facebook, Alibaba, that do not have assets, engage assets and create a marketplace, with all those tools, we engage consumers and we create a consumer place. And therefore, we're transforming regulators' nature from R2B to R2C, regulator to consumer. And this is something that is being considered also by Acer as a very important, as a good benchmark that's being used in implemented in Europe. And not only that, but helps also the decision making. And as you can see in this graph, from the facts that we had during the crisis, from the monthly complaints, and you can see the growing number in May 2022, where we issued the report on windfall revenues, and this initiated the ex-post ex-ante revenue clawback mechanism for supporting consumers. So this means that we have to be very close to the final consumer, and this helps the maturity of the market and to implement projects that are being needed in favor of consumers and of the system. And as a summary, it's very clear that the key priorities for National Climate and Energy Plan is energy efficiency, green electricity, electrification, transport, and other sectors, as well as renewable gases. There are three pillars. The first one is that energy markets are competitive and provide price signals for storage and demand response. It's very clear where the market is going. The second is that we have considered developments in network, especially for electricity network, as well as for gas, for energy security purposes too. And our main role is to protect consumers for this green transition in order the cost to be at levels that the final consumers can support. And finally, it's very important that our regulators, the Greek regulator, the Turkish regulator, have an excellent cooperation at the bilateral level, as well as with the MEDREC institution, where also practically Dr. Hassan Oskos, who is the director, is a very active and capable person, and we are committed to enhance this green transition in the area in favor of the consumers and our citizens. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Dagoumas. Very interesting presentation. I must point out the work that the Greek regulator has been doing over the last 2-3 years in helping consumers understand better the market. They have developed a series of tools where consumers can access the site through special applications of the regulator and see what's happening in the market, the prices, comparison of prices between different suppliers, and so forth. So we have a very active regulator with a good conception of the market. That's very important. Please stay with us for a few minutes, Professor Dagoumas. The presentations, the messages by the two ministers, Dr. Bayraktar and Mr. Skylakakis, are being removed for the afternoon, for the first afternoon session, upon the request of the Turkish minister, so that we have the presentations, but we will see them in the second half of the conference. So now we have a few minutes. If there are any questions from the audience, please show your hand, please. Can we have a mic here, please? Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Can you give some more details on this hydrogen corridor that you mentioned, the vertical one?
The question is addressed to Professor Dagoumas.
Yeah, I think the TSO, so is Mr. Thomatakis that will be is presenting later on, will provide more details on that. It's important that the TSOs in Greece as well as neighbor countries cooperating and are searching for support from Europe to be included in the IPCI's list for hydrogen corridors. Of course, it's a long-term process. The first signs are good because there is a demand for hydrogen in Central Europe, and we are, as a region, one of the options for doing this. So we gradually mature it, and more details will be provided by the TSOs later on by Mr. Thomatakis.
Okay. Any other questions from the floor? You have. Okay.
Yeah, Professor Doumas, I have a small question. Are there any plans for the Poseidon pipeline?
As all serious institutions have to do, is to mature all projects, and if market dynamics are there, they will be implemented. We have to mature all projects, and the dynamics will show what will happen in any of them. This is our role, and this is the way we show any project.
Okay.
David O'Byrne from Platts, from S&P Global Platts. On one of your slides, you showed, I think it was 4 new LNG terminals that are under development or approved. Realistically, how many LNG terminals do you think that Greece can actually operate?
Practically now we have a second LNG terminal, so and we have issued licenses because we have to do one. There's an application to do it in short time, and binding phases have already taken place for one of them. So it's an issue of decision from them. To be frank, we have to wait. And as I mentioned before, we show some influence in the first months of 2024 on the operation of LNG terminals. We know that there is a very high interest, but it's a market decision that will show on what will happen in those investments.
Right. And what markets will they be serving?
Sorry, I didn't hear it.
Yeah. Which markets do you envisage that they'll be serving? I mean, we know that there's LNG being imported through Greece to sent to Bulgaria, but which other markets in Southeast Europe do you think these terminals can serve?
Of course, our neighbor countries, I mean, Bulgaria and North Macedonia, and Romania, Hungary, and even up to Moldova and Ukraine. So it depends on the market dynamics and it's bilateral deals between the different companies and the binding phases of those terminals.
Thank you.
We'll hear a lot more about this in the session on natural gas this afternoon. Well, if there are no more questions, I wish to thank you for your attention and participation. And now I would like to ask all the speakers of the first session to come here for a photo opportunity and also some commemorative plaques. Yes.